Everything you are right now began as a thought. Every decision, every belief, every habit, every piece of your life was once just a seed in your mind. And whether you know it or not, you've been growing that seed every single day. That's the secret most people miss. You become what you think about. This audiobook isn't just about positive thinking. It's about power. The power to shift your inner world so that your outer world has no choice but to follow. Your mind is the soil, your thoughts are the seeds, and your life is the harvest. In the next 15 chapters, you're going to unlearn old programming. You'll see the patterns that have been holding you back. And most importantly, you'll learn how to rewire your mind in a way that transforms everything, from your confidence to your income to your peace. So if you're ready to change your thoughts and change your life, subscribe to this journey. This isn't just an audiobook, it's your blueprint for mental transformation. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The thought that started it all. Every story has a beginning, every change has a spark, and every transformation begins with a single thought. At some point in your life, maybe you looked around and felt something was off. Things weren't how you imagined they'd be. The peace you thought you'd have wasn't there. The confidence, the momentum, the freedom. They were distant, like a dream you once believed in but slowly forgot. You weren't broken. You were just stuck in a pattern, and that pattern began in the mind. See, no one teaches us how much power a single thought carries. From the moment you wake up, thoughts begin to run. Some loud, some quiet, some anxious, some hopeful. But what you rarely realize is that those thoughts aren't passive. They're creative. They're building your life, moment by moment, whether you're aware of them or not. You think you're making choices out of logic. You think you're reacting to what's happening around you, but in truth, you're living out the internal blueprint of the thoughts you've repeated the most. The ones you've believed, the ones you've allowed to take root. The voice in your head, it's not just commentary, it's a director, a sculptor, a quiet architect behind every action you take and every opportunity you miss. And if that voice has been filled with fear, self-doubt, negativity, or limitation, then your reality reflects that. Your life is nothing more than a mirror of your dominant thoughts. But here's the thing, nobody tells you that mirror can change. Your current reality may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility, and you can change it, not by working harder, not by pretending to be someone else, but by changing the thoughts that shape your reality. This chapter in your life starts with awareness. You can't fix what you don't see, so look closer. How do you speak to yourself when no one's around? What do you say about your future when no one's listening? Do you quietly expect failure? Do you brace yourself for rejection before it happens? Do you shrink from the possibility of greatness before even giving yourself a chance? Most people live their whole lives reacting to their thoughts instead of choosing them. They wake up every day and replay the same loop. I'm tired. I'm not good enough. It's too late. What if I fail? That loop becomes normal, familiar, safe even if it hurts. And from that loop, they build a life that feels small, heavy, limited. But not you. Not anymore. Because you're here. And you're reading this not by accident, but because something inside of you is waking up. Something within you is ready to take back the pen, to write the next chapter, with intention, to replace old loops with new visions. And it begins now, with one thought. A new thought. I am not my past. Say it. I am not the voice that doubts me. Say it again. I am not broken. I am just beginning. Now pause. Let that sink in. Let it live inside your chest. Feel the power of shifting even one thought, because from that shift, new feelings emerge. From those feelings, new behaviors, and from those behaviors, a new life. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. It begins in the quiet, in the daily choices. in the small decisions to interrupt the old thought and replace it with a better one. When the old thoughts come back, and they will, you won't fight them with willpower. You'll replace them with vision. You'll speak truth to them. You'll become a guardian of your mind, not a prisoner of your past. And every time you choose a better thought, you're laying a new foundation, not just for your career or relationships, but for your entire life. You start to feel stronger, not because the world changed, but because you did. You stop waiting for circumstances to improve. You stop blaming others. You stop shrinking. You begin to move differently. Think differently. Speak differently. You begin to expect good things, not out of delusion, but because you're training your mind to see possibilities instead of problems. And what you see, you begin to create. That's the truth most people never understand. Your thoughts aren't just commentary. They are instructions. And your body, your energy, your habits, your decisions, they all follow those instructions. So if you've been telling yourself, "This is just who I am," stop. You're not finished. You're just conditioned. And conditioning can be changed. It starts by choosing the thought you repeat. It starts by making your mind a safe place, a powerful place, a place of clarity, not confusion. Because when your mind changes, your life catches up. And over time, those small shifts compound. The way you walk changes. The way you talk changes. The people you attract change. The way you respond to setbacks, to pressure, to fear, it all transforms. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. You finally begin to live from the inside out. Not from reaction, but from intention. This isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about becoming someone who can shape their reality, no matter what comes. It's about realizing you were never the problem. You were just playing an old script, and now you're writing a new one. So as this chapter closes, take this with you. You become what you think. Not just in moments of inspiration, but in moments of silence. In the morning, when you wake up. At night, when the world goes quiet. In the in-between, when no one is watching. That's when it matters. That's when the new version of you is built. And if you protect that thought long enough, if you repeat it, nurture it, water it, it will become real. You'll wake up one day and realize, this isn't who you hoped to be. This is who you became. Chapter 2, Rewiring the Mind. How to break free from mental limits. The mind is not fixed. It never was. But most people live like it is. They live like their thoughts are facts, like their habits are destiny, like their fears are permanent. That's the first lie we inherit from the world. The idea that we're stuck with what we've been given, that our upbringing, our beliefs, our past experiences are cages we can't escape. But the truth is, your mind isn't a prison, it's a program. And the beautiful thing about a program is that it can be rewritten. Every belief you have right now was planted. You weren't born thinking you couldn't succeed. You weren't born doubting yourself. You weren't born with anxiety, insecurity, fear of rejection, fear of failure. Those were installed through repetition, environment, and experience. Maybe someone told you that you weren't smart enough. Maybe someone laughed at your ideas when you were young. Maybe you tried once and failed, and your brain interpreted that as a warning. Don't try again. And over time, those messages became scripts. Those scripts became patterns, and those patterns became your life. But what if you could go back to the root? What if you could interrupt the pattern, not just at the surface, but at the level of thought? That's the power of rewiring. You don't fix a broken life by changing everything overnight. You start by questioning the thoughts you've been living with. You examine the story you've been repeating, and you ask, is this even true? Because the mind doesn't know the difference between truth and repetition. It believes what it hears the most. That's why affirmations work. Not because they're magic, but because repetition creates belief. And belief creates behavior. So if you've been repeating lies, I'm not good enough, I'll never make it, I'm not worthy of success, then it's no wonder your reality looks the way it does. You're not broken. You're misprogrammed. And it's time to take your mind back. Start with one belief. Just one. Something you've always accepted as truth. Something that feels heavy. Something that keeps you playing small. Bring it to the surface. Speak it out loud. Maybe it's, I don't have what it takes. Now pause and challenge it. Where did that belief come from? Was it something you learned? Or something you were taught? Is it based on fact or based on fear? What evidence do you actually have that you're not capable? Because the moment you question a belief is the moment it begins to lose power. And when enough beliefs begin to fall, the old identity collapses with it. That's when transformation begins. You start to realize you're not the belief. You're the one choosing to keep it alive. And if you have the power to believe a lie, you have the power to believe something better. But belief alone isn't enough. You have to back it up with behavior. New beliefs require action. And here's the secret. At first, it will feel fake. Saying I am confident when you've been insecure your whole life. It will feel like a lie. That's okay. Do it anyway. Because belief doesn't lead action. Action leads belief. You prove to your brain that things are changing not by thinking harder, but by doing differently. By speaking up in that meeting. By saying no when you usually say yes. By applying for the thing you don't feel ready for. By showing up even when you're scared. That's the new code. That's the new software. And every time you act in alignment with the new belief, it gets stronger. Rewiring is messy. It takes time. You'll fall back into old patterns. Your brain will resist. It will try to protect the old identity. It will say, "This isn't you," and you must reply, "Maybe not yet, but it will be." Because that's what rewiring is. It's practice. It's choosing the better thought, the better behavior, over and over, until it becomes default. You don't get rid of old wiring by fighting it. You replace it. You build a new pattern. A stronger one. One that's rooted in truth, not fear. And the more you repeat it, the more natural it becomes. You'll wake up one day and realize you no longer react the way you used to. You no longer speak the way you used to. You no longer doubt the way you used to. Because the old program has been overwritten. And in its place, clarity. In its place, confidence. In its place, freedom. You're not who you used to be. Because you stopped believing everything you were told. You stopped letting fear write your future. You took the pen back. And now, chapter by chapter, day by day, you're rewriting the story. Not just in thought, but in behavior. You're proving, with every action, that your mind is your servant, not your master. And if you can control your thoughts, you can direct your life. Not instantly, but gradually. Powerfully. Permanently. That's the secret. That's the way forward. That's how you rewire and finally become the person you were always meant to be. Chapter 3. Your thoughts shape your identity. Who you think you are, that identity you carry around every day, is not fixed. It's not etched in stone. It's not permanent. It's built, constructed, shaped slowly over time by repetition, emotion, and most of all, your thoughts. And the dangerous thing is, most people never realize that the person they've become is not truly who they are, but rather who they've been telling themselves they are. Let that sink in. If you've spent years thinking, "I'm just not confident," then guess what? You've built an identity around insecurity. If you've repeated thoughts like, "I never finish anything," or "I always mess things up," your mind didn't argue, it listened. And then, like a builder laying bricks, it constructed your personality, your habits, your lifestyle around those thoughts. You became the person your thoughts believed you to be. Not because it was your truth, but because it was repeated long enough to feel like truth. And here's the real twist. Your identity controls your behavior. Every single day. If deep down you believe you're lazy, your brain will sabotage you the moment you try to act with discipline. If you believe you're not worthy of success, You'll unconsciously ruin opportunities that come your way, because your identity will always fight to stay consistent with your thoughts. That's the hidden war going on inside every person. It's not a battle of willpower. It's a battle of identity, and identity is built with thoughts. The strongest force in the human mind is the need to stay consistent with who you believe you are. That's why when people try to change without shifting identity, it doesn't last. They go on a diet, they hit the gym, they wake up early. But if the dominant belief in their mind is still, "I'm not the kind of person who keeps this up," the change collapses, not because the plan was wrong, but because the mind never agreed. So what do? You rebuild the image, you reshape the identity, not by pretending, not by faking, but by intentionally feeding your mind better thoughts, new statements, more powerful definitions. You begin to say things like, "I'm becoming someone who shows up every day. I'm the kind of person who finishes what they start. I'm a person who deserves peace, success, and self-respect." And yes, at first it'll feel weird, because your current identity won't believe it yet. But that's not the goal. The goal isn't to convince it instantly. The goal is to interrupt the old loop. Every time you speak a new belief, you disrupt the pattern. And here's the secret. Your brain is always listening. Not just to what you say out loud, but to what you think, what you affirm, what you dwell on. That's why inner dialogue is sacred. It's not just background noise, it's instruction. It's blueprint. And if you want to build a better life, you start with a better internal script. Think of it like this. Your identity is like the thermostat of your life. If your success starts rising higher than your internal setting, you'll sabotage it. If your peace becomes too unfamiliar, you'll stir up drama. If your growth threatens your self-image, you'll pull back to what feels normal. So instead of just chasing results, raise the thermostat. Redefine what's normal. Change the script. Say it enough times, and the belief begins to settle. Act in alignment with it long enough, and the identity begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as a broken person trying to improve, and start seeing yourself as a powerful person returning to their truth. That's when real transformation begins. Not when you change what you do, but when you change what you believe about who you are. And over time, the gap between your old identity and your new one closes. You begin to walk taller. You make choices that align with your future, not your past. You speak with a voice rooted in conviction, not confusion. And people start to notice, not because you're performing, but because your energy is different. It's grounded, it's clear, it's real. Because your thoughts are no longer working against you, they're working for you, feeding your identity, not starving it. And when your identity shifts, everything else follows. Your habits change, your relationships evolve, your standards rise, and the old you, that version begins to fade. Not because you rejected it, but because you outgrew it. Thought by thought, belief by belief. You become someone new. Someone you've always had the potential to be, but didn't have the programming to see. Now you do. So walk in that, think in that, live in that. You're not who you were. You're who you decide to be. And it all begins in the mind. Chapter 4, Reprogramming Your Subconscious, the hidden key to lasting change. Most people live their lives trying to change their results. They work harder. They hustle longer. They push through resistance, hoping that effort alone will break the cycle. But what they don't realize is they're fighting the wrong battle. Because the real war isn't on the outside, it's deep inside, in the subconscious mind. You may think you're in control of your choices, but the truth is, your subconscious is making most of your decisions before you're even aware of them. It runs your habits, it filters your perception, it shapes how you feel, what you expect, and what you're willing to receive. If you want to transform your life, not just temporarily, but permanently, you need to stop treating the symptoms and start changing the system. And that system is subconscious programming. From the moment you were born, your subconscious has been downloading everything, every word you heard, every belief you absorbed, every emotional experience you couldn't process, it all got stored, and over time, those stored memories, thoughts, and patterns became the default script for how you live. It's why some people constantly self-sabotage, why they get close to success and then pull back, why they repeat the same relationships, same fears, same limitations over and over, because at a subconscious level, that's what feels normal. Not healthy, not empowering, just familiar. And the subconscious craves familiarity more than progress. So even when you consciously want to grow, if the subconscious programming doesn't agree, it will find a way to pull you back into the old pattern. This is why change feels so hard. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you lack discipline. It's that you're trying to override deep-rooted beliefs with surface-level motivation. That doesn't work. Not for long. Lasting change only happens when your subconscious gets the message. And here's the good news. Your subconscious can be reprogrammed. It's not rigid, it's responsive, but you have to speak its language. The subconscious doesn't understand logic or reason. It responds to emotion, repetition, and imagery. It's trained the same way it was formed, through consistent input, especially when tied to strong emotional experiences. This is why traumatic moments have such a lasting impact. They hit the subconscious with intensity, but the same principle applies to positive transformation. You can reshape the subconscious using positive emotion and repetition, again and again, until the new pattern becomes the default. You can train your mind to expect success. You can rewire it to feel safe in discipline. You can reprogram it to embrace growth, even when it feels uncomfortable. And the process starts with awareness. Pay attention to the loops. What thoughts are you repeating without even realizing it? What feelings arise when you visualize yourself succeeding? Do you feel excitement or fear? Does your body contract at the thought of abundance? Do you feel guilty for wanting more? These aren't just feelings, they're data. They reveal what your subconscious has been trained to believe is safe. And the only way to shift it is through new conditioning. Visualization, affirmation, immersion, stillness. Daily rituals that go deeper than thinking. They go into your nervous system, your breath, your emotions. This is why silence is powerful. This is why meditation, journaling, and breathwork matter. These are not luxury habits. These are reprogramming tools. When you start spending time in a vision that feels expansive, not just in your mind, but in your body, you begin to override the old patterns. Your subconscious begins to feel safe in the new story. You stop flinching when good things happen. You stop preparing for failure before it comes. You stop rejecting opportunities that match your future because they no longer threaten your past. You become someone who feels at home in progress. And that's when the shift becomes real. You stop chasing change and start becoming it. You stop needing external validation because internally you feel aligned. You stop thinking your way into transformation and start feeling your way into it. The subconscious doesn't need more noise. It needs new frequency. You give it that by surrounding yourself with new language, new standards, new thoughts, and most importantly, new feelings. You allow yourself to feel safe in expansion, because when you feel safe in a new reality, your subconscious allows it in. And what once felt impossible becomes effortless. Not because it's easy, but because you're no longer in conflict with yourself. The conscious mind and the subconscious mind begin to agree. And when that alignment happens, your energy shifts. You become magnetic. You begin to attract what you've been chasing. You start noticing doors that were always there, but previously invisible. Why? Because now, your subconscious is letting you see what it once filtered out. It's letting you move differently, think differently, choose differently. And that difference shows up everywhere. Your relationships, your income, your habits, your emotions. Because you're no longer living in survival. You're living in creation. That's the hidden key. That's the code most people never figure out. It's not just about thinking positive. It's about feeling safe enough to let that positivity take root. It's about making the new vision feel familiar. And the only way to do that is repetition, emotion, and belief, until the subconscious no longer rejects it. That's how you change your life, from the inside out. That's how you finally stop self-sabotaging and start self-building. Not with willpower, with wiring. And you're the one holding the tools now. You're not just thinking different. You're becoming different, because the system has changed. And when the system changes, the story follows. Chapter 5, The Power of Mental Rehearsal. Living it before you live it. There is a moment before success becomes real, when it already exists in your mind. It hasn't shown up in your bank account. It hasn't happened in your relationships. There's no proof on the outside. But inside, you've already lived it, felt it, seen it. That's not fantasy. That's mental rehearsal. And it's one of the most powerful tools in the process of transformation. You've already been using it your entire life. Every time you worried about something, imagined failure, played out a worst-case scenario, you were mentally rehearsing. You were programming your body to feel stress before the event even happened. You were practicing fear without even knowing it. And guess what? Your brain believed it, because the mind can't distinguish between what's vividly imagined and what's actually experienced. Let that truth settle deep, because if your mind and body can be programmed for anxiety through fear-based rehearsal, then it can also be programmed for power through intention. That's what the greatest performers, leaders, and high-level thinkers do. They live the win in their mind before it ever happens in real life. Not just once, repeatedly. They rehearse the speech until their nervous system believes they've already delivered it. They see the victory before stepping onto the field. They feel the calm before the storm, because they've been there already, in their imagination. But here's the part most people miss. Mental rehearsal is not about wishful thinking. It's not dreaming. It's not daydreaming. It's strategic, focused, purposeful. It's not about hoping things will go well. It's about training your mind and body to expect alignment, to feel capable, to remove shock, to create familiarity. Because whatever becomes familiar becomes safe. And whatever is safe, the subconscious allows. Let's say you want to speak on stage. You've never done it before. The thought makes your chest tighten. You imagine the audience, the silence, the lights. Suddenly, your body starts reacting to a fear that hasn't even happened yet. Now, flip the script. Close your eyes, slow your breath, picture it again. But this time, imagine yourself grounded, calm, connected, your voice steady, the crowd leaning in, your message landing, the moment ending with fulfillment, not fear. That's not make-believe. That's practice. And the more often you do it, the more your subconscious begins to believe. This is who I am. This is safe. I've been here before. Then, when the real moment comes, your body responds with alignment, not panic. That's the science behind visualization. But there's also an energetic side. When you begin to feel something consistently, it shapes your vibration. It shifts your presence. It changes what you attract and how you respond. And the world around you starts to mirror that inner certainty. Mental rehearsal isn't a luxury habit, it's an essential habit. Because you'll never rise above the identity you rehearse the most. If you constantly rehearse failure, fear, and unworthiness, your results will reflect that. But if you build a routine where you mentally rehearse the best version of yourself daily, something begins to shift. Quietly, powerfully. You start making decisions as that version. You start responding to setbacks with more grace. You begin to embody the future before it arrives. And that embodiment becomes your access point to it. Because life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you expect. And expectation is not built by positive thinking. It's built by deep repetition. So here's how you start. You carve out space in the morning, or at night, or both. You breathe, slowly, intentionally. You close your eyes. You see yourself doing the hard things successfully. You rehearse the behavior, not just the outcome. You feel the energy, the confidence, the clarity. You make it real. You make it visceral. You make it yours. And then you walk into the day already having lived the win. It doesn't guarantee perfection, but it removes hesitation. It reduces resistance. It prepares the mind. And when the mind is ready, the body follows. Athletes do this. Entrepreneurs do this. Artists, speakers, performers, anyone operating at a high level uses this tool. Not once, daily, with intention. Because they know that confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you rehearse until your body believes it. This is your new practice. Not just to hope for a better future, but to feel it, to embody it, to train for it. And as that practice deepens, something subtle begins to happen. You stop looking for permission. You stop needing proof. You start trusting the version of yourself that you've seen in your vision. And the outer world begins to shift in response. Not because of luck, but because you practiced being ready. So from this day forward, choose to rehearse the best version of you until it becomes the only version you know. Because once your mind sees it, your life will follow. Chapter 6. From Thought to Action. Turning mental shifts into real change. A changed thought means nothing until it becomes a changed behavior. You can journal all day. You can repeat affirmations until your voice goes dry. You can visualize your future with perfect clarity. But if your feet don't move, nothing changes. This is where most people get stuck. They do the inner work. They feel the shift. They get the insight. And then they wait for the right moment, for the fear to go away, for the world to clear a path. But that moment never comes. Because action is not something you do after you feel ready. It's what creates readiness. This is the turning point in your transformation. When new thoughts must meet new action. Not tomorrow, not next year, but now, while the energy is still fresh, while the belief is still alive, while your spirit is still open. Because every time you act in alignment with your new thinking, that identity we've been talking about, it starts to cement. Your brain begins to say, we're serious about this. It's one thing to say, I'm confident. It's another to speak up when your voice shakes. It's one thing to believe, I'm disciplined. It's another to wake up at 5 a.m. when your body says no. It's one thing to think, I'm a leader. It's another to take responsibility when others won't. These are the actions that create evidence, and evidence is what builds belief. Because, let's be real, without action, belief fades. It becomes a wish, a mood, a passing feeling. But when you move, even if it's imperfect, even if it's small, belief begins to root. Your nervous system says, okay, this is us now. Your energy shifts from hoping to becoming. So ask yourself, what action today aligns with the future you've been imagining? It doesn't have to be big. In fact, it shouldn't be. Big moves create overwhelm. Small, consistent steps create momentum. If you see yourself as financially free, start by tracking where your money actually goes. If you want to become healthier, don't plan a 2-hour gym session. Take a 20-minute walk and drink a glass of water. If you want to become more focused, put your phone on airplane mode for an hour and get one task done. Action isn't about speed, it's about alignment. And the more often you align, the stronger your identity becomes. But here's the part no one tells you. At first, your body will resist. Your mind will argue. Everything in you will whisper, let's do this tomorrow. Because new action feels unsafe to the old self. You have to expect the resistance, honor it, smile at it, but move anyway. Because action isn't just about doing, it's about breaking the old pattern, breaking the delay, breaking the waiting for perfection cycle that's held you hostage for too long. And every time you move through resistance, you send a signal, we're not that person anymore. You rewrite the loop. You disrupt the autopilot. You claim back your power. This is the bridge most people never cross. They transform internally, but never express it externally. They feel more inspired than ever, but nothing in their real life reflects it. Don't let that be your story. Let your calendar show your change. Let your conversations reflect your clarity. Let your habits scream who you've become. Don't let the world guess that you've changed. Let them see it in how you move. And over time, the gap between who you were and who you're becoming closes. Not because of a breakthrough, not because of motivation, but because of consistency. Because you got tired of thinking about the life you want and started living like it was already yours. That's the secret no one can sell you. That's the part you earn. So today, no matter how small, act, do the thing, send the message, make the call, start the habit, and keep it going, not for applause, not for proof, but for alignment. Because every action you take is casting a vote for the person you've decided to be. Let the world keep talking. You keep moving. Chapter 7. Elevating Self-Image. Seeing yourself as the person you're becoming. Before anyone else believes in you, you must believe in you. Before your income grows, before your relationships improve, before your life changes externally, your self-image must rise internally. Because no matter what you achieve, you'll only allow yourself to keep what matches your self-image. That's the hidden law most people never learn. The thermostat never lies. Your self-image is the ceiling. You might touch higher moments of success, but unless you change the image you hold of yourself, you'll always snap back to your inner identity. Let's make this clear. You will never rise consistently above the way you see yourself. If deep inside, you still see yourself as broken, unworthy, average, forgettable, then no matter what good comes into your life, you'll find a way to lose it, to downplay it, to sabotage it, because it doesn't match the picture you've been carrying within. That's why self-image work is not optional, it's essential. You don't just need new thoughts. You need a new vision of yourself, not based on the past, not based on what people have told you, not based on your current environment, but based on the version of you that your higher self already sees. The most powerful transformation happens not when you work harder to become someone else, but when you start showing up as the person you were always meant to be before the world told you who you're not. And that starts with how you see yourself. Close your eyes for a moment and ask, who do I think I am? Not who you pretend to be, not who you want others to see, but deep inside, who do you truly believe you are? Because that image is running your life. If you see yourself as someone who always struggles, you'll keep finding struggle. If you see yourself as someone who isn't lovable, you'll reject the very love you crave. If you see yourself as second place, you'll never allow yourself to stand in first. This isn't about arrogance. This is about alignment. When your self-image upgrades, your life recalibrates. You stop shrinking in conversations. You stop apologizing for your presence. You stop tolerating environments that contradict your worth. But it doesn't happen overnight. It happens the same way all things are built, layer by layer. It begins with intention, with the decision to reintroduce yourself to you, to wake up each morning and declare, I am not my past. I am not my failures. I am not their opinion. Instead, I am grounded. I am capable. I am someone who deserves to be here. You may not fully believe it yet. That's okay. Belief grows where repetition lives. Start speaking it anyway. Look in the mirror and see beyond what's in front of you. See the leader. See the healer. See the creator. See the quiet power that's been buried under years of doubt. Start dressing like that person. Start walking like that person. Start making decisions as that person. Not fake, not for show. But because the truest version of you is not the one you've settled for, it's the one you've silenced. And now it's time to bring them forward. You don't become someone new by waiting. You become someone new by acting like it now. The more you honor the future version of you, the more the world begins to respond. Opportunities appear. People shift. Environments either elevate you or fall away. And through it all, your reflection changes. Not just in the mirror, but in your own heart. You stop doubting your voice. You stop second-guessing your worth. You start owning your space. Not because someone finally gave you permission, but because you finally saw who you've been all along. This is how self-respect is born. This is how inner peace is built. This is how power becomes quiet, stable, rooted. It's not in shouting. It's in seeing yourself clearly, fully, without apology. You don't need to fake confidence. You need to see yourself differently. And when you do, everything around you will shift. Not instantly, but inevitably. Because nothing moves until you do. And the first move. Change the way you see you. Chapter 8. The environment of your mind. Guarding what you allow in. Your mind is not just a tool. It's a garden. And just like any garden, what grows inside it depends entirely on what you allow in. You can be intentional about your thoughts. You can work to rewire your beliefs. But if your mental environment remains polluted, filled with noise, negativity, distraction, and doubt, then no matter how much you plant, the weeds will always choke the roots. Most people don't realize this. They spend hours working on self-belief, trying to stay focused, trying to be positive, but their inputs are working against them. They're scrolling through toxicity. They're surrounded by voices that feed fear. They consume content that reinforces limitation. They allow opinions from people who've never built anything to shape how they think. And slowly, without even noticing, their inner environment becomes hostile to growth. It doesn't happen in a moment. It happens gradually. A little sarcasm here, a little pessimism there, a few "you're not ready" or "this might not work" comments from someone close. And over time, it begins to feel normal. You stop dreaming big because everyone around you thinks small. You stop speaking with conviction because you're afraid of being too much. You water down your vision because others haven't dared to believe in theirs. That's the danger of a polluted mental environment. It doesn't attack you directly. It just quietly convinces you to shrink. But here's the truth. Your mind becomes the average of what you feed it. So if you want to become someone powerful, someone focused, someone aligned with purpose, you must become intentional about what enters your mental space. You have to guard your mind like it's sacred ground. Because it is. Every great breakthrough begins with a protected mind, a clear mind, a nourished, quiet, focused mind. This doesn't mean you isolate yourself from the world. It means you filter the world before letting it shape you. You start asking, is this person helping me grow or dragging me back? Is this content inspiring clarity or feeding distraction? Is this conversation rooted in expansion or in limitation? Because every input has a cost. Every voice carries energy. Every piece of content has a vibration, and you are either rising with it or slowly being pulled down by it. That's why the world feels heavy for so many people. They don't have a problem with discipline. They have a problem with what surrounds their discipline. It's hard to stay focused when your phone is a portal to chaos. It's hard to feel worthy when your social feed constantly reminds you what you're not. It's hard to grow when the people closest to you are committed to staying small. So the real work, it's not just inside, it's also outside. It's in curating your environment, like your future depends on it. Because it does. Start by pruning. Unfollow noise. Mute negativity. Limit shallow conversations. Distance yourself. Not from people you don't love, but from patterns that no longer serve you. You can still care for others and protect your peace. You can still be kind and have boundaries. You can still be available, but not accessible to everything. This is how strong people move, with intention, with filters, with discernment. They know that greatness is fragile. It needs care. It needs silence sometimes. It needs a healthy environment. Not perfection, but protection. And when you do this, when you start feeding your mind better, you notice the shift. You feel lighter, clearer, more inspired. You begin thinking in solutions instead of problems. You start dreaming again, not as escape, but as blueprint. And that's when your external world begins to reflect your internal upgrade, because energy doesn't lie. And the more you protect your peace, the more powerful your presence becomes. Your voice changes, your posture shifts, your decisions get sharper. Not because you became someone new overnight, but because the environment inside your head finally became fertile ground. You're not at war with your mind anymore. You're working with it. You're building something. And now, your thoughts have space to grow into something real, something grounded, something powerful. So protect that space, always, because your mind is the garden, and your life is the harvest. And if you stay intentional long enough, you'll wake up in a life that looks like the thoughts you chose to plant. Chapter 9: Thoughts Become Habits. Building the life you think about daily. It always starts with a thought, a small one, a quiet one, sometimes too soft to even notice. But it's there, sitting in the back of your mind. I should wake up earlier. I need to move more. I'm tired of feeling like this. At first, you ignore it. Then it returns, again and again, until one day, that thought becomes a choice, and that choice becomes a behavior. Then, without even realizing it, you're building a habit. This is how life shifts. Not through dramatic changes, but through quiet, persistent repetition. Through small thoughts that gain momentum. Through consistent action that begins to feel normal. And when something becomes normal, it becomes you. Here's what most people miss. Habits don't start in behavior. They start in thought. Before the early morning becomes a routine, it's an idea you've carried. Before the gym becomes a lifestyle, it's a belief that your body matters. Before the discipline shows up in your calendar, it starts as a whisper in your mind. You are already thinking your way into the next version of yourself, whether you realize it or not. So ask yourself, what have you been thinking about daily? Because your dominant thoughts are quietly scripting your future habits. If your internal dialogue is always, I'm too tired, I'll start later, I never stick with anything, then guess what kind of habits follow? But when your thoughts begin to say, I take care of myself, I follow through, I'm building something meaningful, then your actions follow suit, even when it's uncomfortable. Because here's the truth. Most people won't tell you. Habits aren't built for comfort. They're built for alignment. You don't brush your teeth every morning because it's exciting. You do it because it's who you are now. In the same way, discipline, gratitude, movement, deep work, these can all become part of who you are when you stop seeing them as effort and start seeing them as identity. But to get there, the thought must lead. You must hold the thought long enough, consistently enough, until the behavior follows. And once behavior repeats, momentum takes over. That's the beauty of this process. What once felt like a mountain becomes automatic. Not because it got easier, but because you became stronger. Because your thoughts shaped your patterns, and your patterns became your life. This is why protecting your thoughts is so critical. Because the thoughts you entertain the most, they become your instincts. They become your rhythms. They become the invisible system that runs your day. And over time, that system becomes your lifestyle. Not because you forced it, but because you built it, one thought at a time. That's how confidence is built. That's how focus becomes second nature. That's how a scattered, unstructured life becomes ordered, powerful, precise. Not by trying to overhaul everything at once, but by becoming intentional about what you're thinking about every single day. Because repetition rewires. Because attention amplifies. Because what you think about long enough becomes who you are. So the question isn't just what are your habits, it's what are the thoughts feeding those habits. That's where the transformation truly lives. That's where it begins. Every morning when you wake up and decide, today, I will think like the person I'm becoming. And then, throughout the day, you prove it. One choice, one response, one small habit at a time. No big announcement, no radical shift. Just quiet, honest alignment between your thoughts and your life. And one day, not too far from now, you'll wake up inside a life you used to only imagine, and you'll realize it didn't happen all at once. It happened thought by thought, step by step, until your habits became your home. Chapter 10. The Inner Conversation. How Self-Talk Shapes Reality. There's a voice you hear more than any other. Not your parents. Not your friends. Not even your mentors. It's your own, your inner voice. That quiet whisper running through your mind all day. Sometimes loud, sometimes silent, but always present. And here's the truth. That voice is building your reality. More than goals. More than plans. More than hustle. Because how you speak to yourself is how you treat yourself. And how you treat yourself is how the world eventually treats you. Your inner conversation is your emotional blueprint. It sets your standard. It shapes your reactions. It determines what you'll tolerate, what you'll chase, and what you'll never even try. If your self-talk is critical, harsh, judgmental, then even your victories will feel empty. You'll achieve something, but discredit it. You'll take a risk, but shame yourself the whole way through. That's why this work isn't about motivation. It's about rebuilding the voice in your head. The voice that says, I mess everything up. I'm not ready. I always fail. I can't trust myself. You didn't choose those thoughts. You inherited them. From wounds. From repetition. From environments that never nurtured your potential. But now you have the power to change them. Not by pretending. Not by yelling affirmations you don't believe. But by speaking to yourself as someone you care about. Imagine talking to a younger version of you. Little kid standing in front of you, unsure, trying, scared. Would you say, you always mess up? You're so behind. You'll never get it right. No, you'd say, you're learning. I'm proud of you. We'll figure this out together. So why not speak to yourself like that now? You're not your past. You're not your mistakes. You're not your delay. You're someone becoming, growing, evolving. And you deserve words that match that journey. Because when you change the way you talk to yourself, your body changes. Your posture shifts. Your energy lifts. Your brain starts to form new patterns. Your nervous system feels safer. And suddenly, you start doing things you used to avoid. Not because you became fearless, but because you stopped attacking yourself. That's the secret. Self-talk isn't about positivity. It's about safety. It's about building an inner world that supports your outer growth. The truth is, life already throws enough at you. The last thing you need is an inner critic echoing those attacks. You need an inner friend, an inner mentor, an inner guide that says, I got you, even when everything else feels uncertain. This is how transformation sustains itself. Because when your self-talk supports your goals, your identity stabilizes. You stop needing outside validation. You stop chasing quick highs. You stop breaking yourself just to build yourself again. Instead, you become consistent, grounded, clear, because you're no longer at war within. And that peace, that inner calm, it radiates. People feel it when you walk in a room. They don't know what's different, but they sense something steady, something quiet and strong. That's what happens when you control your self-talk. You stop looking for worth in outcomes. You start creating worth through presence. You become someone others trust, not just because of your words, but because of your relationship with yourself. You speak with calm conviction. You move with focused confidence. You respond instead of react, because your thoughts are no longer scattered. They're anchored, aligned, rooted. Not perfect, but intentional. You won't always get it right. Sometimes the old voice will creep in. It'll whisper the same doubts, the same fears. But now you'll hear it differently. You'll pause. You'll breathe. You'll respond, not obey. You'll say, that's the old voice. That's not me anymore. And just like that, You reclaim your power. One word at a time. One thought at a time. One conversation at a time. Because you've learned the most important truth of all. You become what you say to yourself when no one else is listening. And now you're listening. Now you're speaking differently. And soon, you'll start living differently too. Chapter 11, Resisting the Noise. Focus is the power of thought in action. There has never been a louder time in history. Distractions blink from every direction. Opinions fill every corner of your screen. Noise, 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 disguised as productivity, disguised as urgency, disguised as opportunity. But most of it, it's nothing more than interference, clutter for the mind, a storm that keeps you spinning but never moving. And here's the danger. What you don't resist, you absorb. What you absorb becomes thought, and what you think repeatedly becomes your life. That's how powerful focus is. It's not just about cutting things off. It's about choosing, again and again, what deserves space in your awareness. Because your awareness is currency. Where it flows, your energy follows. Where your energy flows, your life builds. And most people, they're bankrupt before noon. They give their focus to everyone but themselves, to scrolling, to checking, to reacting, to explaining. Always plugged in, never tuned in. But here's what the most powerful people understand. Focus is not about force, it's about protection. It's about creating a boundary between you and the chaos. A sacred zone where your most important thoughts can actually breathe. Because in this world, thinking clearly is a superpower. The ability to sit quietly, to sort through the fog, to ask what actually matters right now, to know when to move and when to wait. That's what builds extraordinary lives. Not noise, not urgency, not hustle, clarity. But clarity can't exist without silence, and silence can't exist without choice. So you have to make it, daily, deliberately, devoutly, the choice to protect your space. Maybe that means waking up before the world starts shouting. Maybe that means deleting apps that drain more than they give. Maybe it means saying no to conversations that pull you back into an old version of yourself. Whatever it is, you must become unavailable to noise if you want to be available to purpose. You can't hear your future calling if your mind is always occupied by everyone else's agenda. This is the silent war of modern life, and you win it through intention. You build focus the same way you build muscle, through resistance. You resist the urge to respond immediately. You resist the lie that everything is urgent. You resist the addiction to being distracted, even if it feels like rest. Because real rest is clarity. And clarity is rare. But once you have it, once you fight for it, everything else gets easier. Decisions become faster. Priorities become obvious. Time stretches. Energy rises. And most importantly, you start trusting yourself again. That's what focus does. It reconnects you to your own voice. That voice that got drowned out by the world. That voice that remembers your dream. That voice that knows exactly what matters, even when everything else is pulling you away. You don't need more productivity hacks. You don't need more apps. You need a protected thought life. A space where your best ideas aren't suffocated. Where your intuition gets room to breathe. Where your mind can be still long enough to become sharp again. Because when your thoughts are scattered, your results are scattered. But when your thoughts are focused, your life aligns. This is not a one-time shift. It's a daily choice, a ritual, a discipline of silence in a world that rewards noise. But the reward, it's priceless. Because when you reclaim your focus, you reclaim your thoughts. And when you reclaim your thoughts, you reclaim your future. So unplug, breathe, reset, protect your mental space like it's sacred, because it is. That's not a luxury. That's survival. And more than that, that's how you rise. In silence, with focus, with power. Chapter 12, The Power of Repetition. How to rewire your mind through daily practice. The world loves the dramatic. It glorifies the breakthrough. the overnight success, the moment of magic. But what it often ignores is the power of repetition, the quiet grind, the invisible rewiring, the unseen choices made every single day. This is where true transformation lives, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, not in one bold move, but in 1,000 small ones. Because your brain doesn't change from what it hears once. It changes from what it hears every day. And this is the miracle of the mind. It's not fixed. It's flexible. Every thought you repeat is like a thread. One thread isn't strong, but tie enough of them together, and they become a rope, a pattern, a path, a belief. And beliefs don't come from truth. They come from repetition. Repeat a lie enough times, and your brain will believe it. But here's the beautiful part. Repeat the truth enough times, and your brain will believe that too. That's what this chapter is about. Reclaiming the steering wheel of your mind. Not through hype, but through habit. Because what you practice, you become. If you practice doubt, if you practice fear, if you practice distraction, that becomes your default. But if you start practicing discipline, gratitude, patience, focus, confidence, then those qualities start to hardwire into your system. This is how repetition becomes your revolution. Let's be clear. This isn't about fake positivity. It's not about saying I'm great while your life is falling apart. It's about training your brain to respond differently, to feel fear and still move, to feel tired and still show up, to feel overwhelmed and still focus on what's in front of you. But that kind of response doesn't come from motivation. It comes from repetition, from doing it once, then again, until your system adapts, because your brain is listening. It's paying attention to what you repeat. Every time you get up early, it notices. Every time you focus instead of scroll, it records. Every time you speak kindly to yourself, it stores that signal. And over time, those signals become patterns. And patterns become who you are. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to be consistent with the right thing. Repetition is the bridge between desire and identity. Wanting something is one thing. Becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts that thing. That's the result of repeated action. Want peace? Practice stillness every day. Want strength? Practice discipline every day. Want clarity? Practice silence every day. Want confidence? Practice courageous action every day. Whatever you want, don't just chase it. Practice it daily, deliberately, devoutly. Because every day you practice, you reinforce the path. And eventually that path becomes automatic. Just like brushing your teeth. Just like driving a car. Just like walking. At first it's hard. Then it's normal. Then it's you. But none of it happens without repetition. And this is where most people quit. They think, I already tried this. But trying once isn't practice. Trying once is curiosity. Practice is devotion. It's coming back to it even when you don't see results yet. It's trusting that repetition is building something underneath the surface. It's believing that the work is working, even when the results aren't visible, because they are working. They are rewiring. They are transforming you. Slowly, silently, powerfully, like water carving stone. And one day, it clicks. You realize you don't overthink as much. You don't fear failure the same way. You don't need external motivation to get started. You just do it. Because it's who you are now. That's the power of repetition. It doesn't just change your schedule. It changes your nature. You become dependable, grounded, unshakable. Not because of one big win, but because of thousands of quiet, deliberate, repeated actions. So whatever you're building, don't stop. Don't rush. Don't look for dramatic shifts. Just show up. Again, and again, and again. Because every repetition is a vote for your future self. And those votes, they add up, until you wake up one day and realize you've become someone you used to only imagine. And the world will ask, How did you do it? And you'll smile quietly, because you'll know the answer they never say. I did it through repetition. Chapter 13. Mental environment. The people and places that shape your thinking. You are not just a product of your thoughts. You are also a product of your environment. The voices you hear, the energies you absorb, the spaces you inhabit, the people you allow into your mind. Your mind is soil, and every day something is being planted in it. Sometimes you're planting, sometimes others are, and most of the time, you don't even realize it's happening. A sarcastic comment, a critical voice, a negative news cycle, a toxic conversation. Each of them is a seed, and left unchallenged, they grow, slowly, silently, into beliefs. That's why guarding your mental environment is not a luxury, it's survival. Because if you're trying to think better, live better, be better, but you're surrounded by people who doubt you, dismiss you, or drain you, your thoughts will always be at war. Your vision will be blurred. Your motivation will feel unstable. Your identity will feel shaky. Not because you're weak, but because your environment is louder than your intention. Here's the hard truth. You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. You can't think freely in a space that constantly suffocates your mind. You can't evolve when you're surrounded by people who benefit from you staying the same. That's not ego, that's wisdom. That's not isolation, that's protection. Your peace is sacred. Your growth is sacred. And sometimes the most powerful decision you'll ever make is to walk away. Not because you hate them, but because you love your future more. Because your dreams deserve clean air. They deserve light. They deserve people who water them, not trample them. This is not about blaming others. It's about becoming conscious of what you're absorbing. What kind of language is normal around you? Are people speaking about possibilities or limitations? Are they encouraging accountability or enabling excuses? Are they pushing forward or pulling back? These questions matter because environments aren't neutral. They either sharpen you or soften you. They either remind you of who you can become or who you used to be. And the most dangerous environment isn't always the loudest. Sometimes it's subtle. A friend who always jokes about how you'll never change. A workplace where apathy is normal. A home where dreams are called unrealistic. These places mold your mindset without you even noticing. But the good news, you can choose. You can redesign your environment the way an artist arranges a canvas. You can place people in your life who lift, who stretch, who inspire, who don't shrink when you speak about becoming more. You can curate your digital space, mute the noise, unfollow the chaos, consume content that feeds your mind, not poisons it. You can create physical spaces that support thinking. Clear your room, light a candle, make room for silence. You can even rewire your internal space by noticing the thoughts that aren't yours, by questioning inherited beliefs, by interrupting the narrative that was handed to you but never aligned with you. This is the real work. Not just thinking better, but creating the conditions where better thinking can thrive. Because thought doesn't exist in a vacuum. It grows or dies based on the environment that holds it. So make a promise to yourself to protect your mental garden, to pull out weeds quickly, to stop watering dead roots, to plant only what supports your growth, to make peace your priority, not just your reward. Because once your environment supports your mind will support your destiny. And then, you don't just become better, you become undeniable. Chapter 14. Breaking the cycle. Freeing your mind from old programming. You were not born limited. You were born blank. A vessel of raw potential. Wide open, unwritten, unfiltered. And then, the world began writing on you. Parents, teachers, society, religion, culture, circumstance. They told you what was good, what was bad, what was possible, what was foolish, what was safe, what was you. And like all children, you believed them. not because they were right, but because you had no reason to doubt. And those beliefs became patterns, and those patterns became identity. And that identity, it became your limitation. Not because it was true, but because it was repeated. This is the foundation of your old programming. And here's the danger. What goes unchallenged becomes truth. So when you hear something like, "I'm not good at business," or "I always mess things up," or "people like me don't win," you think you're describing reality, but you're not. You're describing repetition. You're describing conditioning. You're describing a mental loop so old it feels like fact. And here's what no one tells you. You can interrupt the loop. You can press pause. You can examine the code. You can delete, rewrite, replace. But only if you're willing to step out of the familiar, because old programming is comfortable. Even if it's destructive, it feels safe. It tells you, at least I know this pain. At least I know how this failure ends. But growth requires courage. The courage to say, maybe I was wrong about me. The courage to investigate every belief that limits your expansion. The courage to stop repeating other people's fears as your own. Because most of your doubts were never yours. They were downloaded, passed down through words, trauma, silence. But your mind is not stone. It's software, and software can be updated. If you want to change your life, change your internal code. How? By doing the one thing your old programming hates, questioning it. Start by identifying the loops. Whenever you say, "That's just how I am," "That never works for me," "I've always struggled with this," pause. Where did that belief come from? Whose voice is that? When did you first decide that? And more importantly, what would happen if that belief wasn't true anymore? Because here's the truth. There's another version of you that's already written inside. It's buried beneath the old code. It's not something you need to invent. You just need to unlock it. You unlock it by choosing new thoughts, new stories, new experiences, new truths, by proving your old programming wrong through action. You don't need to believe you're strong to act strong. You just need to act strong often enough that your brain adapts. You don't need to believe you're worthy to say no to what drains you. You just need to say no often enough that your nervous system rewires itself. This is what breaking the cycle looks like. It's not always dramatic. It's often quiet, messy, awkward. But it's real. It's waking up and doing something different, even if it scares you. It's speaking a truth you've never voiced, even if your voice shakes. It's letting go of an identity that no longer serves you, even if it feels like loss. Because what you're letting go of isn't you. It's a version of you shaped by fear. And what you're stepping into, that's freedom. It's the freedom to choose your story, to write your own code, to design your own life, thought by thought. So let this be the moment you stop recycling old programming. Let this be the chapter where you interrupt the pattern. Let this be the mental shift, where the past stops dictating the future. Because once you change your mind, everything else follows. Chapter 15. Becoming the thinker. Living every day with intentional thoughts. There comes a moment in every journey when the noise fades, the confusion clears, and what's left is you, not the old you, not the version wrapped in doubt, fear, and broken habits, but the awakened you, the one who has seen the power of your own mind, the one who finally understands. You are not your past. You are your pattern of thinking. You now realize, every single day you have a choice, to think thoughts that lift, or thoughts that lower, to build a mindset that frees, or one that cages. And that choice, though silent, is sacred. It's not about what happens to you. It's about what happens within you. This is what it means to become the thinker, not just someone who reacts, but someone who chooses, consciously, daily, deliberately, to think in alignment with who you are becoming, not who you've been. You stop blaming the world. You stop waiting for the right time. You stop waiting to feel ready. Because now you know. It's not the world that changes first. It's your thoughts. You don't wait for motivation anymore. You create it through focus. You don't wait for clarity. You build it through presence. And most importantly, you don't think like a victim. You think like a creator. You take responsibility for your words, your reactions, your attitude, your energy, because you've seen what your thoughts can do. You've witnessed their ripple effect. One positive thought led to one brave action. One brave action led to a new opportunity. A new opportunity led to a new identity. And now, you're no longer chasing transformation. You are transformation. You've embodied the truth that every thought is a seed, and you've stopped throwing seeds blindly. Now you plant with purpose. You wake up and ask yourself, what kind of day do I want to build? And you begin building with thought, gratitude, clarity, determination, humility, grace. You speak to yourself with kindness, not because life is easy, but because you've made peace your home. You notice negative thoughts creeping in, and instead of following them, you question them, you reframe them, you replace them. This is no longer hard for you. It's your lifestyle. You've built the mental muscle. You've practiced the pause. You've honored the process. Now thinking intentionally isn't work. It's who you are. And here's what happens when you live this way. The world begins to respond differently. You attract aligned people. You notice aligned opportunities. You experience aligned results. Not because magic fell from the sky, but because your mind became magnetic, clear, focused, grounded. You walk differently now. You speak with more certainty. You move with calm authority. Because you're not reacting to life. You're co-creating it. This is the power that was always in you. It just needed to be remembered, reactivated, respected. And now that you know, you'll never go back. You'll never again let your mind be a dumping ground for fear. You'll never again outsource your peace. You'll never again betray your own thoughts just to fit in. You've become sovereign. You've become deliberate. You've become a thinker, a real one. And here's the gift. Every day is now your canvas. Every thought is your brush. Every feeling is your color. Every belief is your frame. And what you paint, that becomes your life. So paint with love, with conviction, with vision. And when people ask, how did you become like this? How did you stay so calm, focused, and clear? You'll smile. Not because it was easy, but because it was earned. Thought by thought, layer by layer, moment by moment. And you'll tell them, simply, I became what I thought, because you did. And now, you live like it.